Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Weird Science DC Comics midweek bonus show. And I have been doing this the past couple weeks. Last week, I ended up putting on this feed my brand new Gotham Central Reading Club episode, the first episode of that from our Patreon. And this is yet again another thing from our Patreon. Each month, we do a book of the month where the Get Fresh crew, Beep Boop, and everybody in the Get Fresh crew gets to pick what book we're going to be doing for that month. And for July, last month, everybody picked The Boys. Well, not everybody. The Boys won. And so we ended up doing The Boys Volume 1. This is going to be the first episode where me and my man Stork, who does the Book of the Month Club podcast with me every single month, we did the first issue of The Boys. And it was one of those things as we went through, we both kind of agreed that the source material here, the Garth Ennis original, a little over the top and maybe a little too much. I ended up saying a couple times that it was one of those things where you think that things have gone far enough, and then Garth Ennis has to do one more thing at the very end. Right before the scene cuts, he's got to do something even worse to shock and amaze you. Well, one of the things going is I see a lot of people commenting on the Boys television show and saying that that is done a lot better than the source material. And a lot of times, most people would disagree with that. I agree fully. And it's one of the few times that I think that they ended up being able to do it a little better. You don't have to go that far. Garth Ennis just went way too far. But you'll hear us talk about this in this first episode. But why I put these up here is so that people can see some of the shows that we do over on the Patreon. A lot of times we end up talking about our spotlight episode that we do each week with 2 books from DC or Marvel, if you listen to that as well. I like to, mention those, but it's better to let you hear exactly the type of shows that we do have over on the Patreon. And this is one that we have each and every week of each and every month where we do go through things. Just as an aside, if you are a DC Comics fan, which I hope you are if you're listening to our feed here, you end up that on August, the winner of the poll was the Grant Morrison Batman and Robin. And I put it on the poll because of the upcoming Batman versus Robin. I thought that's kind of a cool little deal. And it's a story that I love. So if you want to listen to that or any of the other things, because we have a ton of reading clubs, things like Hellboy, Spawn, the Marvel Ultimate Universe, the Injustice, all of that stuff we have reading clubs and other podcasts for. Go over to patreon.com/weird science and you can just check it out. When you go over and sign up initially, you will not be charged right away. You will not be charged unless you carry over into the next month. If you end up listening to all the things and you're like, Jim, I gave it a try, but you stink, then you just quit. You'll never be charged, and no fuss, no muss. It might upset me, but no fuss, no muss for you. But yeah, go check it out. In our show notes, there will be links to go right to the Patreon to check it out, all that stuff. So please at least check it out or listen to this podcast and see if you think, hey, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool way to put up your pants there, Jim and Stork. But maybe that'll be the case. But yeah, we're going to go off to this. Again, this is me and Stork talking about The Boys, issue number 1, the name of the game, part 1. And away we go.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science
is the revolution.
Weird science
is the revolution.
Weird science
is the revolution.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Book of the Month podcast. This is July, and I'm here with my man Stork. What up, Stork?
What up, Jim?
What up? And in a close race here for the streaming edition of The Boys won. It ended up beating Miss Marvel by like 1 vote. So,
boy, talk about opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, really. I mean, and the funny thing is, after we did all this, I put up the poll. I realized that I had already done that first volume of Miss Marvel for the character of the month deal way back. But yeah, I didn't mind because me and you were going to do it. And I really like that deal. I've never read The Boys ever. The Boys, I like to say. I've never seen the show. You've actually read The Boys a couple volumes and have watched the show. So we're going to come at it in a different way, but I've never have. So I had no idea. I didn't even know what it was about. All I knew was the cover look like the Straight Outta Compton cover from NWA. And I was like, that's pretty cool. Like, I'm down with that. But it is The Boys. It was written by Garth Ennis, art by Derek Robertson. And it came out way, way back, way, way back. I actually had this where I had it set up to tell me when it came back, and it ended up messing up. And with that, to be in line with this book, I probably should just start cursing and use words that we normally wouldn't use. But it came out, it looks like, way back in August 21st, maybe, of 2006. I'm looking at this, and I'm going from Comic Book Roundup, not realizing that a bunch of people had recently reviewed. It's all messed up. So there you go. What a start. What a start to July. Happy July, everybody. But The Boys, I don't know. The thing about this is it threw me off a bit. I know it's Garth Ennis. It's way over the top. I mean, way, way over the top. You had told me that the TV show dumbs it down a little, makes it a little more, the deal where I still think it's gritty, right? I'm sure the TV show is that. But the big premise of this, to me, in a nutshell, is if you like the Who Watches the Watchmen, well, it looks like The Boys might be watching The Watchmen, even playing with that in the intro at the beginning. And I'll even read this. It mentions all the characters, and me and you said we were taken aback a little that you don't introduce them actually in the issue, this first issue. Yeah, which kind of feels like a prequel type deal, like a zero issue, maybe something of a promotional deal. It reads real quick.
Yeah,
you don't get
really
much of the deal.
Up what the plot of the first trade is really going to be about.
No, you said we don't really get a villain. We don't even get a team. We kind of get a vague setup of things. And when it first came out, first issue didn't get a lot of great reviews. It really didn't. And a lot of people didn't even really pay attention to it. And I think it might have fallen through the cracks. It must get better. Obviously, now that the TV show's out, I'm sure that everybody, likes it or at least knows about it, except me. But it says, Billy Butcher, Wee Huey, Mother's Milk, the Frenchman, and the female are The Boys, a CIA-backed team of very dangerous people, each one dedicated to the struggle against the most lethal force on Earth, superpowers. Some superheroes have to be watched. There you go. Some have to be controlled, and some of them sometimes need to be taken out of the picture. That's when you call in The Boys. And I thought, why is there a girl in The Boys? I don't get it. But it is written by Garth Ennis, illustrated by Derek Robertson, colored by Tony Avina, and lettered by Greg Thompson. So we jump into this, and even the first deal of a credits type page where you end up having a boot just squashing what looks like to be a superhero's head, and it is horrific.
Poor Cap, almost.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's what it is. Cap getting his head squashed, and you can kind of guess when you see that what character that would be, because you end up where you get to the next page, and it just says Butcher. And you see, pretty good way to set up that you're in the Capitol or Washington, D.C. You see the Capitol building behind, and you see a guy who looks, pretty much like the Punisher sitting there with his dog. And you see superheroes flying by overhead. Again, when you see these things, there are some things that you can kind of like, okay, that looks like it's a superhero team. That's probably like something like the Justice League, things like that. And the first thing that you have, and this is the thing, if you don't like the naughty language, you might not want to read this or whatnot. I'm not going to read it fully because I told you there's one of all the words, there's one word that's so over the top.
We're good boys.
It throws, we're the good boys. They're the bad boys. But when you use that term, it does give you that crazy deal. And I'm saying the C word. It does give you, okay, that guy must be a Brit. And he is. So that works out. But he looks over, you see this team fly over, and he goes, I'm going to fucking have you, you C word.
Do we have a bleep button? Maybe
what a start. We have it. I'm like, I'm going to get you, you.
How dare you?
There you go. From every time from now on, how dare you is the C word.
Right. We might need that a lot.
Ding, we do that. Yes, you would. And then he ends up where he has this bulldog there with him, and he says, come on, terror. And then off we go, mate. And the weird play is he's walking through this park, and I'm sure this is a, regular deal. I'm not really familiar with Washington, D.C., but he's walking there. It's not like he has, 8 guns strapped to his back. He has his pants on. Yeah, really 3 heads. Later on, we get a 3rd leg shirt joke that I thought was funny. But he's just walking there with his bulldog. And what's going on? Everybody's turning to look at him as it's supposed to be just this idea of him being such a presence.
Who's that lady? Who's that lady?
Who's that lady? Lovely lady. I used to love that commercial. Yeah, he's walking through and everybody's stopping, turning away. Of course, then he's walking against the grain. At one point, I'm like, what, is that the play here? But you see, you're supposed to be like impressed by him. All in black. He's got Terror, his dog. He's the butcher. All right, let's see how it goes. It threw me off then because then we go off and you have Wee Huey. And these are just little blocks. And right away, I'm like, oh, what the hell is Simon Pegg doing in this? And it's so over the top. I mean, you have in this edition that me and you are going through an introduction by Simon Pegg saying, yeah, you know, I was in space and some people knew of me, but I wasn't real big. I don't know if this Robertson fella thought that I was just going to remain on that level so he could use full out my thing. But he said, you know, he didn't seem upset about it. And you had told me he ends up playing his character, and here he plays the dad in The Boys. But I mean, it is not even like close to not being him. It's so over
especially
the top.
That big close up in the bottom right.
Oh my God, I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, it's him, and it throws you out. It throws you out of the issue, whether or not it was supposed to originally or not. It does. Yeah, really. Oh my God, beam me up there, Doc. But you end up where he's going through like a fair with his girlfriend, it seems. And it's kind of funny. He's not a good guy. He's kind of a funny guy, but he's a bit he's a bit homophobic.
There's not a lot of good people in this issue, which is it's hard to it's hard to try and back one person. Yeah, so that's a tough read.
Now, he is homophobic here.
Yes.
But it's supposed to be in a comical way, including his hand gestures. And that's the thing. It's weird. It's like, I don't think that he's being hateful about it. He's just describing it. And it's, you know, the idea of having conspiracy theories and the idea of aliens. And he thinks, oh, my God. And they have this, you know, UFO and there's a pink alien. You know, they're not green or gray. They're pink because I think they're here to make everybody gay. And it doesn't even make sense.
He's just really ignorant.
Yeah, that's where you can. It's weird. It's very hard to talk about it and try to express that. He's so ridiculously moronic with this that you just look at it as, this guy is just kind of, but he's not like a wrong turn. That guy's hateful. Like he will want to like
the killing.
The Amish, they're out there to take his cell phones, and he is going to fight for his right to talk on the cell phone. This just seems like a guy who likes to talk about nonsense and just go with it. Again, I don't know anything about his character, and you really don't get a concept of exactly why he's going to be on the team, I guess, except that it's number game by the end of this. But it just the hand motions like, listen, and he goes, Jings, what if they get us onto their UFO and fruit us up? Just that, like, what? And this girl's, and it is that funny thing that you play off that, this guy, he probably doesn't have a lot of the ladies, right? You know, look at this guy. And but she seems like he's finally found somebody that'll listen to his bull crap and just smile and say, oh, I love that you say Jings and I love you. What did you say? And the thing is, it's one of those where you have a guy, well, you know, I know from experience, you have this where you can't get the lady. The minute that you get a lady, like, and if she says, I love you, and she thinks it's never too soon because you actually finally caught one. You got one on the line. But and she's like, oh, my God, is it too soon? Because I think I love you. I fell in love with you right away. And they seem to be dating like a month, she says. You know, I knew after a week, never mind a month. And they start making out. Everybody rubberneck gawks in this because you end up where they start to, this one guy's walking by like, hey, look at that. 2 people smooching at the fair. And Then they start playing that classic where they are
Spin
holding
around.
each other, spinning around, and you want to have that point of view going back and forth from each of them. And then all of a sudden you see the feet go up like a naked gun. You end up where this is kind of similar, I guess, because as they're doing this, you have a superhero run by and completely, well, actually hits a villain, it looks like, and just tears this woman apart. So all that Huey is left with are her arms, and
Yes.
he can't let them go. They're just there. It's disgusting. It's over the top, but it kind of does make you think like this would probably happen anytime the Flash is involved, especially because you end up having this hero A-Train coming through, asshole. Like he's like, what a jerk. Out of my fucking way. And he goes by. And again, like you said, nobody is good in this. Nobody is like, oh man, that person's pretty cool. Like, and yeah, you ended up killing his girlfriend. I mean, she's a splatter on the wall. We'll get to that then because pretty much it doesn't mean anything. I don't even think it's collateral damage because it's like not even something that these heroes or villains even bat an eye at. They don't care. But then we go off, and
it's like they're on their own big playground, and regular people don't matter. They're just like a video game. They're just what's the term? Players that aren't really controlled.
NPCs.
Yes,
they are
that's it.
Non-player characters. They are.
Yes.
But yeah, so then we go off to what is kind of the CIA. And you do end up having that this lady is going to be, Mr. Butcher is here to see you. Now, I didn't even think of the deal because she's there. She does have a picture on her desk of a guy with 2 kids. I would think that would be her husband and kids, but they say Miss Rayner. Is that anything that they ever say anything out? It's not Mrs. Rayner. It's kind of an odd deal.
It's Ms. Maybe she likes to be. Yeah.
Maybe that's the deal. Well, you see that she also likes to be plowed on her desk, or at least on the floor, whatever the hell may be, because Butcher comes in like, okay, what's that Butcher English fella? Kind of big in the pants area, I guess. But and they're like, yes, okay, hold my calls. And then he comes in, they look at each other like they hate each other. And then the next panel, they're just plowing each other. And she's screaming that she hates him. And he's there. I like that he pulls up his shirt a little to have the half shirt look. And then says, wait till you see where I wipe my dick, love. And I'm like, what is going on in this thing? This is not
one step too far there.
It's not all ages. I'll tell you that. And I think for me, I guess that it's like 90 and above, because I'm reading this. I'm like, I don't know about this. Like, I don't know. And then I'm thinking the idea, is this why it's big to the TV show? Because it's like a porno? I don't know.
It's like shock value, and a lot of
it's too much at this point. We just saw a woman get completely ripped from her arms that Simon Pegg was holding, and you're like, holy crap. And then they show it's like blood dripping off him. Then we go in 2 pages later, there's the head of the CIA getting plowed on a desk. And then that comment, it is a little too much. It really is. It's like this first issue, no story. Let's not give the whole team. Let's shock the shit out of everybody. Let's throw the C word in there as many times. That word, throw that in.
I remember Ennis talking about it, though, that he got advice, and it might have been about Preacher, actually. Maybe you were talking about it, how it was shock them and make it memorable. And he's doing that.
Yeah. The thing is, though, hey, what do you know about this? The Boys. Well, the comic, there was a lady getting plowed on a desk and another one just smashed dead. Even like that combo, you see her getting plowed, and I just like saying plowed. I don't get to say that much.
That
we
name
don't
again
talk
is Mr.
about
Plow.
Exactly. We don't have a Simpsons podcast, so. But you go from a woman just being completely destroyed.
And then one destroyed on a wall.
Yeah. And you're like, and you go, and it's horrific. I mean, it really is. And what happens, because, while plowing is going on, we go back to the fair. Simon Pegg's complete shock, what you would be in. You're still holding, they're like desperately trying to get him to stop holding these hands.
Yeah.
I'm expecting him like next scene, he's there
Hands across Scotland.
Yeah, really, hands across that fair. Good night, hands. He's like going with that. And so I'm like, I think I have a purpose for you. I'm like, oh my, that's shock value then. You end up where they're trying to kind of get him. They're giving him drugs. I mean, they're really trying to get him to at least calm down a bit.
Mm-hmm.
As you have the police come in and start, talking to A-Train, pretty much the Flash here. And he's
doesn't
like
care
that.
At all. He's doing stretches. He's grabbing his junk.
He's doing like 1950s Jack LaLanne exercise stretcher, like, and yeah, he's like, hey, where the hell am I? And he's like, it's small talk even to these cops of like, oh, you know how it is going across the Atlantic, and oh, look at me, I'm so cool. Where the fuck am I? And they're like, well, you're in Glasgow. And he's like, holy shit. And they're like, America's that way. And you do see at least one person there.
Mm-hmm.
The one cop's like, hey, so why don't you fuck off and get back there, you?
How
And I'm like, oh my God, we are in Glasgow. And yeah, and he's
I
like,
think that's
well,
a good play, though. So we show that some people don't like these heroes, not just Butcher.
Yeah, exactly. And especially this is an American hero. It seems he's there, that they're just chasing around. Again, like you said, they treat these people like it's just nothing, but they treat like a country. Like, you're there and you're in Scotland. And you're like, oh, I don't care. Where the fuck am I? Who did I just kill?
These are the police who are supposedly law and order. No, we have superheroes.
No care at all with any of that. So yeah, it's just all this crap going down. And it's over the top. But at least you do see that. You do get to see that some people don't like what's going on. But then you have this guy, A-Train, like, hey, you guys got to deal with this. Like, I got to sort of get going. You're like, what a dick, right? And then I like that he has to yell. After doing this, can't stop the A-Train, and goes off. You're like, fuck you, asshole. And he goes, as you get a good, like, the progression here is A-Train's off. He'll never remember this. This is just one little thing. But Simon Pegg, Huey, you're like, oh my God, he's still freaking out. He's finally dropped the arms and the hands, but they're, give him another shot. Like they've hit so many things with him. It's like Michael Jackson, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I watched a Michael Jackson documentary that last night of his. Boy, he was yelling for the meds. He was a lot of meds. But yeah, so what's going on in this? Well, you end up having that set up. And now we're going to get to maybe like, okay, we'll get to the issue now. Because all of this is the setup for us to say, okay, superheroes are dicks. That's the deal. So that makes it so
not necessarily evil, just it's like, and the show gets into this too. They're celebrities, and it's like the ultimate celebrity worship, but they also have superpowers. So they're already like have a big head, but then they're dangerous because. And
I think the Butcher in this says like what happens when they kind of lose track of their humanity, where they are just these bigger than life things. Oh, I can't do anything. It's the whole idea with any celebrities where they think they can, get this car that, is all silver and ends up blinding people like a Justin Bieber. Ever see that car, that reflective car? Nonsense it was.
Like, how much can I get away with?
Yeah. Or like Justin Bieber, again, like pissing on the Great Wall of China. Like, you just think you could do whatever you want when you're Justin Bieber. But you end up going back to the office and the Butcher zipping up his pants. Yeah, really. Zipping up his pants. And the woman is, fixing her hair. And it's like, hey, you know what? I'm here because I heard what's going on. And it's very vague what is happening here in a first issue, especially if it's just coming out. Now, I go into this and I kind of know the premise because of the TV show and just hearing. I've never seen it, but I've heard things about it. But it is that idea that the president's been talking about things and the Butcher's found out, and he's the only one who really can find out really about all the superheroes that he says, you guys are checking up on these superheroes, but basically you probably have a file that has a headshot and a little deal, but you don't even know all of them. I know them all. I know the heroes, the villains. I know a man who can get me that information. I could do all that. And she even at one point, she's like grabbing that file of the boys.
Yes.
And it looks like she does not like want to get anything involved with that. But you end up going. You go from here because you end up where, he's kind of forcing the deal. I'm kind of bored. I need to work here. Can I get involved with this? But
yeah, he's talking about how, like we said, the superpowers, and this is all set up, most dangerous power on Earth, and you need me and my team to keep them in check because you really don't know what's going on. I have access to information you don't have. I'm not going to give that away to you. So I'm still relevant and you still need me. And he's got some sort of personal vendetta that we don't know about yet. Yeah. And that's what she brings up.
Yeah, you can tell something's going on. He hates the city. I mean, you had it when they were flying over and that whole deal with, mentioning of names and then pretty much, okay, well, what's the team? Do you have get the old team back together, and they go through, some of the characters. We don't know who they are just yet. MM's all right. I'm going to go see him tonight. Frenchman's probably sat in some cafe talking to his espresso like a mad effing bastard. I hear they found this geezer in Baltimore with his face torn off, so that means that is the female. And then the whole deal is they need somebody new because there's some problems with Mallory, he says. I can't really get Mallory. I'm going to have to get somebody else. I know, you got his grandchildren murdered. He's like, just that's how things go and whatnot. But you do have a mention of them, but nothing more than that. I mean, if we didn't have that first page with, the pictures of them, you'd have no idea.
And it's an odd play to not have your team introduced.
Yeah. And again, you have to throw an ending of a scene where, you got his grandchildren murdered. Do me a favor, love. Try not to get so wet when I'm like, come on now.
Yeah.
Like,
Hello,
it's
love.
too much. Hello, love. You getting wet, all you loves. Like, please. But you go off then to Huey again, and he is at his apartment. And this, I thought that this was kind of funny because they're certainly taking advantage of the idea that he's still in shock, high as hell.
Yeah.
And they're going to make him sign a paper so that he doesn't sue, doesn't do any of this. And he is at this point where he's just like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't want money. I just want my girlfriend back. And it's kind of a weird deal because through the whole thing, I was thinking, like, they've only been dating a month. Like, what do they care about him? But I guess, he was right in the line of things. But you don't even know who these guys are. They're just men in black. While he answers the door with God's third leg shirt, which made me giggle. Also, you can tell he's high as hell and he's got his bong and stuff there, which again, if these are, if you think of this as them being like government deal, whatnot, they're not concerned of anything except sign this. And I guess a cool play would have been, you can't really tell in a comic, are they speaking with an accent? Are they Scottish? Are they American? I'm assuming that they're American and they come in so. As that. Yeah. But you can't really get that from the comic, but I'm assuming that. But yeah, I like the deal where you just get half sentences in these bubbles. You don't know who, because he's in a daze. He doesn't know what's going on. These are just the scraps of things he's hearing. They hand him a pen and this thing and he's going to sign it. And he does. They kind of threaten him like, oh, yeah, the paramedic got a black eye, presumably from him. So this is all going to make everything go away. You don't sue us. We don't sue you. They're really taking advantage of him. Plus, we already said he's a bit of a goofball. He also has this going on. I like the one guy's going around looking at the posters and the deal. And there's like
a Scottish alien.
A Scottish alien. And he's just like looking at that like, huh. But yeah, he ends up signing this deal away, which does end up putting him more on the radar for the Butcher, because the Butcher does need a fifth person on the team. It seems to be a numbers deal. Now, I wish the play was better because this is his guy, right? This is the guy who knows all the stuff that he was talking about, I'm assuming. And the guy is such a he's
not,
there.
I'll say it's not.
Okay, because he is there and he's going to get some info. And I'm like, this guy's jerking off at his desk while he's looking at, like, everything is weird and awful.
This guy likes paraplegics a lot.
Yeah, look at him.
Say that.
Yeah, he's not a good guy.
Like, is this necessary?
I don't know. Because, he's jerking off to like a Paralympic javelin thrower. Way over the top. But you end up where you get him there, and hey, there's a Mr. Butcher here. Oh my God! He goes and tries to jump out of the window, and I'll tell you, he's pretty good at hanging there because he jumps out, and there's Butcher's just waiting. He knew that he was going to be coming out right there. Grabs him, kicks him in the balls, then throws him down, calls him monkey this whole time, and says, "I need some tea and some info. Let's get this going. I need another member of the team. So what do you got?" And they go through people who might have a vendetta, it seems, against some superheroes. They go through the people who, were around, had some damage done to them, or people around them, and it ends up where they see Huey. Hey, what's this guy's deal? Okay, well, he ended up having his girlfriend. Then you get all the info.
Never asked for money, never fought it. So that's Butcher's way in. Like, oh, this guy, he doesn't care about the money. So
yeah, so he's going to go, and you see, Huey's deal on the screen. And that was the big deal where, hey, why do you need 5 anyway? I mean, the female alone. And you have the, 'cause I fucking do. And since when do you ask questions, monkey? All right. And then the big play then is that you have Huey where he doesn't know what's going on here. He's just sitting there in the park like, okay, this is fucked up. My whole world's gone dipsy-do, all this. Just stop turning, world, please. And he's losing his mind. And then you pull out, and there's Butcher sitting next to him on this bench. And you do see he has a duffel bag there with him, like he's, I don't know, just going to get the hell away or do whatever he was going to do. But Butcher's there with his dog, and that's how you end the first issue. And it's weird. It's so over the top that it throws you out so many times. But there's something to it. There's an interesting thing, but maybe that's because I know what it's more about. If I read this first issue, I think I would have probably, all this is just shock value, over the top stuff, and I probably wouldn't have continued. But obviously we will through this first trade. But I told you when it first came out, you didn't have tons of reviews, but they weren't the greatest. I mean, even the user reviews on Comic Roundup, a lot of them more current, because it seems like people went to read this after the and didn't even like it still. So it is a weird issue. It does, when I look at the reviews of the series, not only does it start getting reviewed a little better, but it also has more people reviewing it as it goes on. But there is a section that looks like it gets really, really crazy. I mean, like in the 30s, like the reviews are like 2s and 1s. So I don't know what happens.
Yeah, I didn't make it that far.
Yeah. And again, the idea that it was, adapted, and it's a TV show that a lot of people love. You said they kind of toned it down. They kind of probably
I mean, it's still extreme to the point where I think I heard that Amazon had to come up with their own, censors or something to make sure that certain things didn't go through.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, you end up where it's still like, that's kind of cool to be a little more over the top than normal television, but there can't be this over the, like, this is just, every page is trying to shock you. And you get the idea. I mean, hey, Garth, we get it. These superheroes are everybody's pieces of shit, but you don't have to keep just nailing you with it. Plowing you with it. Some might say, I don't need that on a desk. But yeah, it was a little bit too much for that first issue, and real light on the story. You're kind of reeling from the shock things, and yet there's not a real story by the end yet. To go. You just know a team. It's vaguely mentioned. I don't know if that's cool or not. Is it something that, and you see one hero, A-Train, who is a douche, but not like he's evil. Like you said, even that is like, okay, well, who is are just super powered people, villains? Is there an actual villain we're going to go for? But there's some intriguing things. And the art is that Robertson, he has that style. It works well with some of the over-the-top stuff.
Yeah, sometimes it's a little inconsistent with Butcher's face, but
I never really liked his art that much overall. I know he has done some other things, and anytime he's on anything, they will mention The Boys. Oh my God, the guy from The Boys. He had a DC thing a little back, and it's okay, but it ends up, again, it looks like a little less style of almost like stuff that we have with the Watchmen. Like, it kind of plays off that style, but like you said, it's a little inconsistent. So what would you give it?
I'm at a 6.4.
Yeah,
like
I'm going to give it a 7.
It's just so over the top that it's kind of a bit of a turn off towards me. So if I didn't know where it was going and this was the first issue, I probably wouldn't keep up with it.
Yeah. I mean, there's too many mentions of it's way over the top. But yeah, like you said, it almost wants to shock you into liking it, and that's not my thing. So it would be, if anybody like, oh man, I love that shit, I'm into that. It's just not. I'm a good boy, and I like superheroes and fun stuff. But I'm here for this. We'll end up going through it all, and I'm still a little more positive of 7 because I'm intrigued of what this team is. I always like anytime you get a team together, see what they're all about. But I'm just imagining everybody's a piece of shit because
that's
of how it's been
it's
set
who
up.
do you root for when everybody's just awful?
Yeah, that's the funniest. Who's watching The Watchmen? It's like, who's rooting for the pieces of shit? Like, which ones are you going to grab onto? But we'll see. That's realistic. Everybody's pieces of shit. I don't know if you know that store.
Not Greta.
You find that out. Just go, no, not Greta. Oh, Greta, why did you call me that? Now every time I hear, I'll be doing that in the DC, like, oh my God, I better watch myself. But yeah, that's the first episode, the first issue. We'll be moving on, obviously, to the second one next week. And then at points, we'll double up, finish the trade. We'll actually look ahead to see how many issues this trade is and not be surprised at the end. Oh my God, we have 3? Oh my, holy crap. Yeah, even if it's not the greatest, it's something that I'm glad that we're reading because of all the people talking about the TV show and things like that.
It's a classic.
Yeah. So we'll do that. So thanks, everybody. Thank you, Stuart, for joining me. And we'll talk to you all later.
See ya.
Go read comics. You are all weirdos.
Weird science.
It's the revolution.
Weird science.
It's the revolution.
Weird science.
It's the revolution.